1 to 2 pounds a week, half a kilo to a kilo. That is the number on every clinic leaflet and every website, and it has been for about 40 years. It is a decent answer, but almost nobody can tell you why it is that number rather than some other one. There is a real ceiling on how fast a human being can lose fat. It has been calculated, and it is different between two people by a factor of 2 or 3. There is also a trial that tested slow against fast for keeping the weight off afterwards, and it found the opposite of what everybody expects. So, the trial first. In 2014, a group in Melbourne took 204 people with obesity and split them in two. One group did 12 weeks of very low-calorie dieting, 450 to 800 calories a day, genuinely rapid. The other did 36 weeks of gradual restriction, aiming at the standard half a kilo a week. Then both groups were followed for 3 years. The rapid group was far more likely to actually get there. 81% of them lost at least 12.5% of their body weight, against 50% of the gradual group. And the regain, 3 years later, was about 71% in both. The speed of the loss did not predict the regain at all. So if it is not about keeping it off, why is there a speed limit at all? Because of what the deficit gets paid with. A deficit is a demand for energy. Your body fat is the supply, but it is a supply with a rate limit, and if you demand more per day than your fat can release, the shortfall has to come from somewhere else. Lean tissue. In 2005, a paper worked that limit out from underfeeding data, including the Minnesota starvation experiment. The figure was about 290 kilojoules per kilo of fat per day, which is roughly 70 calories per kilo of fat you are carrying per day. It is a modeled ceiling rather than a target, but the shape of it is the useful part because it scales with how much fat you actually have. So take two people, both eating 800 calories a day under maintenance. The first is 80 kilos at 30% body fat. That is 24 kilos of fat, so his ceiling is somewhere around 1600 calories a day. 800 is comfortably inside that. It comes out of fat, which is what he wants. The second is 75 kilos at 12%, 9 kilos of fat, a ceiling nearer 600. The same 800 calorie deficit is now larger than what his fat can supply, and the difference has to come out of him some other way. So what does going over actually look like? The first thing is lean mass, which everybody knows about, and which does not come back on the time scale it went away on. Then gallstones, which almost nobody mentions. Losing weight fast changes the composition of bile, and across studies of very low-calorie dieting, something like 1 person in 10 forms stones within a few months. Then the ordinary miseries, hair shedding a few months later, cycles becoming irregular, training getting worse instead of better, which is the one that undoes the entire point of the exercise. None of that is a reason to be frightened of a deficit. It is a reason to have a ceiling on one. So here is the answer. It is the old one, with a reason attached. 0.5% to 1% of your body weight per week for most people. If you are carrying more fat, you can sit at the top of that band, or a little above it, because your supply is genuinely bigger. If you are already lean, you belong at the bottom of it, and your ceiling falls with every kilo you lose, which is why the last stretch always has to be slower than the first. That is the whole rule, and it is a percentage for a reason. You are a different person at the end of this than you were at the start. None of this is measurable at home, so here are the 4 signals that you are over your ceiling. Strength going backwards on the same training, not one bad session, 3 weeks of them. Sleep getting worse, and hunger becoming the main thing you think about, rather than a background fact of the day. Hair coming out in the shower a few months in, and, for women, a cycle that goes missing. Both of those are late signals, and both of them mean the same thing. Slow down. The rate is the only part of any of this you actually control, and you control it through one number. The size of the gap, held steadily and known rather than guessed. So Nutrio does both halves, your target on the screen, what you really ate underneath it, and the weight trend read over weeks instead of mornings. A rate you can see is a rate you can slow down. So, 5 things. 1. Losing it fast does not cause you to regain it. That trial has been done. 2. There is still a ceiling, and it is set by how much fat you are carrying. 3. 0.5% to 1% of body weight a week covers almost everybody. 4. The leaner you get, the lower your ceiling goes. Plan to slow down before you have to. 5. Strength, sleep, hair, and cycle are the alarms. If 2 of them go off, the rate is wrong. Nutrio is free to start on iPhone and Android. 1 photo per meal, and the rate stops being an accident.